Welcome, Ofentse Moses Sebula. And it's a pleasure to have you, the listening group. And it's going to be interesting just delving into your journey from Tembisa to jazz stages in South Africa and abroad. And also just to get a small feel around your path to music, but also that essence of that album, Hope, where we are going to sit there, kancane, but obviously it's a broad conversation around you as a musician, you as a practitioner, and just you as a person, because behind the music and the stage, there's a human being who's giving himself to us as audiences.
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you for having me, bro.
All right, man. So let's start with the obvious. Your album, Hope. Hold on to positive energy. Just tell us about the title, tell us the music, and just tell us briefly about, actually in depth, about the journey to creating that album.
So the title is actually Holding On to Positive Expectations.
Positive expectations.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the story behind the album was because, I had a rough time adapting in university. I think when I was in matric, I had like this idea that university is this place where we're just learning, eating music, and I forgot about the path where I have to personally grow as Ofentse and kind of meet people from different backgrounds and learn how to be around those different people. And that really gave me a hard time. And the music was just a reflection of, I don't want to say my wish at the time, but it's the energy that I wish I had received at that space, and would want people that are going through like something similar to feed off, like to just hold on to the positive things that are happening in your life. Just don't dwell too much on the things that are hindering you from becoming the best version of yourself. So yeah, that was the whole story behind the album.
What were those things that you were struggling with? Because it's one thing where you're trying to maybe understand the dynamic of being in varsity, understand the dynamics, but like, what were some of the things that you were struggling with, because now you're moving from a certain space? It's high school, it's a if I'm not wrong, and yes. And now you're coming to varsity, and there is a having to change that was happening. So what were those things, aside from music, aside from now I'm in varsity, but Uwena as a young man?
I mean, more than anything, it was just showing up as me and seeing how different people react differently to me. It kind of hit me that, some of the things that I had thought were right because of where I grew up and how those things were done, and meeting people who were brave enough to confront me and say, hey, my brother, this is not it. And having to kind of internalize that criticism from someone that was my age. Growing up, I thought abantu abadala kuphela who were supposed to tell us, hey, you are wrong. This is not right. This is wrong. And this is good. So having to kind of live with the fact that I'm supposed to grow, but no, the growth is not as easy as it seems. Yeah, just showing up as me, as my authentic self, and realizing that my actions kind of have an effect on how other people feel in certain spaces and stuff like that. So it was kind of hard for me to kind of take it in and accept the fact that this is the time where I need to introspect and change.
And it's so interesting because you used a struggle, like a difficulty that you needed to confront, to then give us a beautiful album. Is that maybe part of your working process, where you reflect on the moments that you have to create your music, or is it something that is dynamic, that builds from different spaces?
I mean, for me, it's always like, I always ask myself one question when I'm writing music: how can I translate this feeling into song? Because I for the longest time, I didn't like the sound of my voice. I'm not a very vocal person. I believe that music is the medium that allows me to come as my authentic self, and no one can judge me because, I am me in music, and no one is allowed to say, but what you're playing is wrong. It shouldn't be like this and that. That is the feeling that I was trying to kind of reflect in the feelings in the music. That is how mostly write my music. That's how I work around the music. I believe and strongly believe so that music is the medium that allows me to come as my authentic self without judgment.
Hey man, and I think about because Siphume Lokishini, a lot of us, and it's like there's always a romanticization about Ilokishi, and for me, I just wonder, like, would you say there is a sound from Tembisa or from back home that you can say played into how you sound in the kind of music that you make, kind of jazz that you make? Would you say there's a sound as a Tembisa is like as Paya, that is just me, or that is a Tembisa, or that reminds me of a Saturday morning or afternoon schooling,
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's always in my improvisation. I was lucky enough to be handed over to Mr. Molelekwa to teach me music. And he was a brilliant teacher. I mean, he's given me so much information that, I mean, I don't think even varsity education could have given me some of the things that he has given to me. So for me, every time I improvise, there's always the things he would say when we were still learning that come into my head that don't stop there, go deeper, go for it. Don't be scared to play. So every time I'm improvising, it's like I hear Mr. Molelekwa's voice kind of uttering those words to me. And a lot of my influence in the kind of music I make is from the people I've met while I was still in the Moses Molelekwa Arts Foundation in Tembisa. Tami Mahlangu introduced me to Kek Willem, Dave Kors. Stanley Matlo introduced me to a lot of drummers, including your Elvin Jones. What's this guy's name again? Yeah, he's a famous drummer with the glasses.
Yeah.
So a lot of my sound is stemming from, the American culture. I didn't know much about South African music, I'm not gonna lie. And so for me, that's the sound that resonates with me more than anything is that one, because from back at home, go Tembisa, go Gazi was the sound that was kind of given to me to kind of study and learn.
And then how do you then because like when I listen to music, it still reads South Africa. Like your influences might, and maybe it might be Molelekwa's hand, and some of the other people that you've mentioned. But like when I'm listening, it's like there is just like I can't imagine hearing this sound or finding that anywhere else. So how does that work? How does that dynamic?
I don't know. I guess it's because I always try to pour a little bit of myself in my music. I imagine even if I reference something that I've heard before, it's always if it was me that composed this song, how would I best put it in a way that would say this is Ofentse's writing. This sounds like something Ofentse would write. So I always try to leave my identity in the music. So I am South African. I listened to house music. I played a little bit of amapiano, your kwaito music I've listened to before. So it's always some of these things that I always pour into the music as well. And also listening to your Brahebs, to Dr. Nduduzo Makhatini, Mr. Fairfaku, all of these people that we were like great to have to listen to as we were growing as well. Kind of played an influence in the sound that I'm trying to kind of project and give it my identity.
And like with that, do you consider yourself like a jazz musician or a musician who happens to fall within the genre? Because like then the beauty about music nowadays is that you don't have to be genre specific. As much as yes, we do want to try and grow a genre and ensure that it has an essence to it. But nowadays, it's more about let me make a music that is bigger and broader than just myself and just infuse myself in the moment in time. So where do you put yourself?
I mean, I love jazz, but I don't. Calling myself a jazz musician would be bottling myself in like one box, like just a small bottle, because I believe music. Music is global. Be it kwaito, amapiano, jazz, R&B. I play what I feel like playing, and if at this certain space and time, this is the kind of music that I feel like playing and writing, I will write it and release it.
Yeah, and
but I don't call myself a jazz musician. I am a musician.
That's beautiful. And when are you ever performing your album again in South Africa with a band?
So my plan is to have a couple of shows this year. I've been working on a different project called Shifting Perspective. It's been a couple of hiccups with recordings and everything. I've lost some of the files, and my plan now is to go back in studio and kind of re-record the stuff that we've lost. So yeah, sometime this year I'll be performing Hope and Shifting Perspective.
Okay, and that's another thing. Like, there's a value in performing when you're a jazz musician, but also I think now with how the music industry is shaped and set up, I think it's going back to live performances being much more valuable than releasing online and streaming, etc. So it's between live performance and social media, and yes, streaming, which but at the top it's live performances. And I'm just wondering, with you, because Mina, I felt like we were robbed of a moment when you released the album. I think it was like what, 2023 or 2022.
It was 2021, I think, like during those hectic times.
It's like you come up with hope. All of us are locked down. We don't know what's going to happen. We come up with something that literally takes us through those moments, and then no performances or limited performances. Like for me, it's like, why are you doing this to us?
No, man. It's really, I don't know. I just gotten into the space at the time, and like even now, I feel like I'm more of a sponge than a solid rock musician, because I'm learning as I'm moving. And yeah, I just had a lot to learn at the time, like learning how to do shows on my own. Because even with the album, I was helped a lot by my lecturer, Lani van der Veld. He gave me free studio time. I had a couple of friends who were ready to rock the music with me. So it was more of a flowing thing than like coming into the industry and realizing that, okay, this is not what I thought it is. So I have to work my ass off and learn as much as I can so that I can just deliver what I plan to deliver to the people.
Yes. And actually that's the other thing. Like, having now being in the industry somewhat, because I don't think, especially with music, I don't think that you ever stop learning. I think it's just like a continuation. But like, what are the things that you're finding a bit difficult, or that you're realizing that you really need to navigate, finding yourself in the music industry now, where you need to be balancing the industry side with your being creative and your being a musician? And how are you finding that navigation?
I think the biggest thing for me now is learning and also being conscious of not falling trap into doing what other people are doing, you know. It's easy to lose yourself amidst whatever it is that is happening. That is great. There's a lot of great artists, a lot of great bands. And it's so easy to say, okay, this is the formula that works for these people. Maybe it might work for me. I'm working on like just being my authentic self and just always presenting myself as that all the time. I'm having a tough time associating with a lot of people because of I don't know, I just have a weird personality sometimes around people, but you know, it's something that I'm actively working on. And yeah, just getting to work with people that really spark that thing in me where I want to just create more and more and more.
And then, since you see yourself, or you position yourself as a musician, should we then expect, or should we hope for, like, a different sound coming from you at maybe sporadic moments where you're like, yes, I'm just going to release a home single just because, you know?
I expect the unexpected. Something like that might just pop up.
Okay. And then, like, now that you're in the industry, how are you protecting yourself? We know that a lot of artists have come and gone, and they always cry about the same things: music ownership, royalties, split sheets, all of those kinds of things. Like, how are you navigating that and also protecting yourself? Because at the end of the day, I now in 2025, I'm like, there's technically no reason why someone should still be taking advantage of at a big scale. Like there will be scammers here and there, but like at a monumental scale, I don't think that one should be taken advantage of. So how are you protecting yourself, and how are you moving to ensure that you're protected?
I mean, I've been swindled a couple of times. I'm not gonna lie. It's quite a tough one for me to kind of crack and have like a blueprint of, okay, this is how I'm doing it, because for different people it's different. I've tried the contract route.
Yeah.
It was a mess. I've tried kind of speaking upfront about things, and some people just block you before you get to the monies or the royalties. So it's quite tricky for me because, like I said, after getting into the industry, especially after coming from school, because I thought maybe if I get an education, things are going to be slightly different for me because I know how things are supposed to be done. I know how things are supposed to be run. But once you get into it, it's like people are doing things in their own way. I've worked with people where I was told to come in for a session, we record in the session, and then they tell you, I'll give you splits after we are done recording. You wait for years and years until today, I haven't received splits or even payments for those gigs. And it's been tricky for me to kind of find a way of, I don't want to say protecting myself, but of confronting these things, because sometimes you confront them and then you are cut off by 25 people because that person is like a big associate in the industry, and you lose their brain and bats, and now it's tricky for you because you have a bad name. And for doing the right thing, that is, you have a horrible, or just saying, hey, you're supposed to pay me too. I was part of the production and all these things. So I don't know. It's a path I'm willing to, to learn a lot in kind of finding a way to put myself in a position where I know that in everything that I touch, I'm not swindled, or nothing is gonna hinder me from receiving what is due to me.
Yeah, I know, man. I feel you there. And just going back to the process of creating an album, because you are in the process of creating it. Or well, you've been in the process for quite a couple of years. Some time now. It's a very transformative and introspective process. You have to go back inside you and literally take out all of these things, or some of the experiences that you've had, some of the notes or melodies that you once maybe came up with, and they sat in a voice note or they sat in the back of something. Like, how does that stay with you thereafter? Like this, like it's like shedding of skin. You shed it and then you grind it and then it becomes a song. But once you shed that skin, you're a new person. Is the process somewhat like that, where you are a different person altogether, and the way you view the world is completely changed or partly changed?
It is honestly. For me, even after writing a song and hearing that, okay, now this one makes sense, it does give me the feeling that I was searching for. And I have a couple of close friends that I give them like sneak peeks of the new stuff, like, hey, listen to this, do you like it? So it always, for me, it's like venting. When you vent to a friend and they give you a little advice and be like, no, just let it go, my friend. It's always like that. I come back a better person after like writing and releasing stuff.
Yeah, and
because it's reassuring. For me, it's about like telling a story, leaving a digital footprint that will not die, even if I can die 2 days from now or a year from now. I know that I've lived through song and people get to hear my story regardless, whether I'm telling a good story or a bad one, but my story remains, So it's always that. I always come back like a better person, looking for newer experiences and ways of kind of engaging with the people through song.
Man, yeah. And then with that as well, like, because when creating, so there's parts of yourself that you are collecting to create this new music that thereafter transforms you. But then there's the element of collaboration, because now you have to let go of parts of this thing that you have in your mind, in your heart. How important is that, and what role do you think that it plays and should play continuously within the change in you as a person, but also the confidence of another person touching something that you've created, or co-creating something with someone else, and then it just becomes this beautiful thing. How do you deal with that, or even move through that?
So I'm not sure if I understand the question clearly. You are asking if, like, how do I let go
yes
of parts of it when I'm collaborating with other people?
Yes, and how important is collaboration in that part?
For me personally, collaboration is very important. It's trusting someone to input something that you wouldn't have thought of in the music. And, my expectation is always for it to be more beautiful, for it to have more resonance to what other people are feeling, especially if we discuss like the kind of feeling or the sound that we're going for. It's always a pleasure to work with. I work a lot with Mudika, Matato, Phonics, and Ditebo Kobedi. We sit together and make music a lot of times. And for me, it's always, I don't want to say it's like a starstruck moment, but it's always beautiful to just see what they come up with and how all three inputs can just work as one, and it gives out this beautiful song or whatever we just come up with that resonates with everything that we spoke about before it was created. So yeah, and letting go of parts of you is just the trust thing for me. Just practicing to trust people to deliver from their higher selves is what I look for when I'm collaborating with a lot of people. Just always giving people an opportunity to bring their creativity into the music and just, bless us with their creative spirit.
Yeah. And
yeah.
With all that said, you are in South Africa and you're creating music for the world. For me, how it sounds and how I've received it. But also you've just come off a tour in Europe. What does success look like to you? Like, what would success look like? When you say, I as a team, I've reached the mountaintop and send a delay match. I'm like, not that you're done with music, but you're like, okay, I'm successful now. What does that look like? What does it feel like? And for you?
I don't know. Yo, I don't know. I've never imagined myself stopping. I feel like I'm still in the beginning stages of my career. So I've never had like a session with myself where I sat down and envisioned the final picture of it. Because for me, there's never really a final picture. I've always seen myself, like, my biggest dream is to become an inspiration and a source of, like, a fuel to other people that are coming after me. I want people to just always, the message that I'm really trying to like display with my music is that just come as your original self. No one is supposed to tell you who you are supposed to be and who you are not supposed to be in the music. Because a lot of great musicians that I look up to have always shown up as their authentic. Miles Davis always came as himself. Mankunku came as himself. Mankunku is Mankunku because of that sound,
Yeah.
So for me, it's so beautiful to see, like, people, even if they weren't rich or anything, but having a lot of people look up to them and seeing them, draw them to this music and making them just come out as their authentic self.
Yeah. And
sometimes it's I'm sorry. Sometimes it's easy to like just stand on the money and just be about the bag. But sometimes the seed that you're supposed to be planting is not in you. It's in other people who will listen to your music and say, wow, I wish I can create something like this. And I wish something like this can just be a part of me. And then now you've created just a legacy of sound, and you are part of the history of South African music now, without you having had millions or anything. And for me, that's the biggest achievement one can ever get to.
It's funny because like this response actually goes to one of my final questions, which is, what is the purpose of your music?
Yeah. The purpose of my music is to inspire others to want to do this thing. Music has this thing. I mean, I had an English teacher when I was in matric who literally said, I'm a fool for pursuing music, and the best thing I'll do for myself is become a lecturer. And that really, it stuck with me, because sometimes when things are going bad, I remember those words. There's a lot of people that try to discourage my pursuance of like music studies. And with all of that being in place and seeing where God has put me and the stages that I had to be on, all because of this gift that God gave me, all because of the music, is me realizing that, we shouldn't be told what to do, man. If you believe in something, just believe in it and or push other people to see the best in themselves and not just be there because people are doing it. It's not even about that for me. I'm doing this so that one day my children will listen to my music and say, wow, my dad did something that he really wanted to do and he achieved it. So the purpose is just to see and allow people to bloom into their own beautiful flowers.
Yeah, and you did it to the best of your ability. You put your heart into it. And how important is spirituality in your music making process?
In what sense?
What role does it play? What role
do I pray before? Do
you pray? Is the music coming through you, or because those are all elements that play into what we consider spirituality? It could be religion, it could be ancestral, but what role does that play? Are you constantly in tune, or are you constantly tuning yourself towards a higher power? And that then you say speaks or sings through you?
I don't know. I have too many questions when it comes to spirituality, religion, and all of these things. And I don't know if I could say I'm in tune or a little bit off tune because of my questions. I draw from a higher power. I draw from God. I call unto God. I call unto my ancestors when I need to. I don't know. I believe that some of the things that I do that I feel like in my lens, they're inferior. But when people listen to them, they're like, wow, I'm like, okay, maybe something bigger than me was speaking through me. I was just a vessel in that moment. So I guess I could say that in that sense, spirituality works in how I create my music.
But also I think the questioning is because you're questioning spirituality, you're questioning a lot of things that we sometimes just believe because we have been told. And the questioning can form a relationship with the idea of spirituality, which then can be something that draws through you. Because for me, I always say it's all energy, it's all jazz.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, man. So for me, man, please do give us some shows, man. Please do continue performing, because there's one thing that I always think about. I think about the fact that there is nothing more joyous than experiencing an artist that you've been listening to, like you've been there, and there's the sonics there, and now they are there in front of you. But now they're literally breathing this music that you've been sitting in your sitting room and you lounge and you're listening to on your headphones or in your car. And now there's nothing more beautiful than that. And also it's an exchange of energy. And that exchange also just kulisa as a fan, with futhi kulisa as an artist in my view.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. That's true. And I have I'm really planning on giving off a lot of me this year. So yeah, there'll be a lot of shows in the pipeline towards the run of the
year. Yeah, you need to catch up from 2021, man. There's a lot you need to do. But man, I just want to say thank you, Ofentse, for sharing your insights and your experiences, sharing your music and your dedication, but also sharing your story with me. I'm just a person who's trying to learn. Learning never stops.
Yeah.
But also I'm just a person who's trying to say, well, world, look, this is South Africa. This is South African music. This is South African jazz. And this is Ofentse Moses Sebula. And you have no reason not to know him.